Hello, I'm Jean Redfern, and I'm here to help you with looking at the way things are going on in the classroom. I've been very concerned about students not being engaged, not being focused, so I've come up with some ideas that I've utilized this year that have proved successful in most cases, and I wanted to share them with you, and hopefully you can find one or two that will be helpful for you. The reason I say the tide, it's a-changing, is because of video, because of technology, you find students who are online looking at other things other than paying attention in class. We all know this. Most like to, but not all. As you'll see, they may be busy with Facebook, they might be chatting, they might be doing Twitter, they might be doing instant messaging, any of those and others that are popping up all over the place. They tend to be distractions for students while they're attending online school. Or classes, live classes anyway. So my goal has been to keep the students engaged while attending their online classes. And in order to show you how I do that, I'm going to give you a typical class model to give you some ideas of what have worked, things that have worked for me as I've been teaching online classes. First of all, I have found that when I include music of all kinds of genders, students like to suggest possibilities as well. It tends to, they come to class early. They come into class 5 and 10 minutes early, waiting for me to have the music ready and going. In fact, they sometimes ask me to play it again before class actually starts. In this particular case, my background was like a bouquet or a flower. So when I use the background, I use my background as my key to where I want to go with my music. And in this particular case, I would have chosen the classical song Ode to Joy, and it would play while they're coming to class. At the end of class, as you'll see when we get to that point, I use Glad You Came by The Vaunted. So I try very hard to find things that coordinate with the background and or coordinate with the lesson that we're using. And also, students get very involved with this. Will you please play Uncle Cracker next time? Will you please play Taylor Swift next time? And a lot of times it's recent. So I'm always looking for songs that they're familiar with to play to bring them on board. And they evaluate these sessions when they watch the recording. And invariably the last what do I want to use? The last statement they make is that they really enjoyed the music. So I can't wait to hear what's going to be in the next music you're using. So to me, that's a way of bringing them on board. The one thing that you have to watch out for, though, are the lyrics. A lot of times when you have a playlist, the lyrics maybe have something suggestive or may have words in it that are inappropriate for classes and consequently can't be used. Even if the students like the song, it's not one that you would want to use in your class, obviously. So that's one of my go-tos, is to check the lyrics before I do anything about putting a music into my classroom. You'll notice that on this particular slide, this is what it looks like when they come to class. The music is up here playing, and then we talk about what our objectives are for the day, and then they're chatting over here on the right, saying, good morning, how are you, what about that awful storm last night, and I can't wait for the prom this weekend, things like that. And basically I get this going about 10 minutes before class gets started. It gives them the opportunity to share with each other and to just talk and chat, which I think they enjoy. They seem to anyway. All right. Then I begin, after we've talked about that, class is getting ready to start. I have a question of the day. We call it the QOD. And I always have it a multiple choice question. And I put a poll pod up there with the question of the day so that as they're working the problem, they can choose A, B, C, or D. No one sees anybody else's responses. And I give them a few minutes to figure out what the answer might be. And then I'll give them a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and say, okay, I'm closing the poll and closing it up. We view the responses and we find out how many of the students got it right. And it's just another way of getting them engaged and do they remember what we did the last time we were together. Generally that's what comes up on the question of the day. It's something from what we just learned. The third thing that I like to do, part that I like to do in keeping the students engaged is called the pick your brain question. It sort of gets them involved in what we're going to talk about during the class time. In this particular case, it was about slope, and so I wanted them to think about places or situations in their lives when they might see slope or rate of change. And of course, first thing that comes to my mind is a ski slope. And I give that as an example, so if they wanted to use it, that's obviously not going to work. The boys usually come up with things like skateboard. The girls have a little tougher time with it. But anyway, they write their answers on the whiteboard. And again, that engages them and makes sure that they are engaged. They're not paying attention to Facebook or chat or whatever. The Q&A box I wanted to point out to you in our classrooms is a place for students who may feel intimidated or are shy, a place where they can put their answers, their questions, without anybody else seeing what they're doing. I found that a lot of students will answer in there or give me a question in there, whereas in chat they'd rather not put it there where everybody sees what they're putting down. So that's the third one. The fourth one is to have multiple choice questions throughout the lesson. And one thing that's important to evaluate or to notice as you're doing this is, are the students involved? Are they paying attention? And my question to you is, do you have the option to remove a student? In my particular case, I'm going to stop for just a second. We have announcements at this school. Sorry about that for the interruption.
From 8 to 11 that I'm sure all of you enjoyed. It looked like a lot of fun. Tomorrow we have field day for kindergarten, first and second grade. Ms. Frederick's class is having an author's tea, and on Friday, grades 3, 4, and 5 will have their field day. And fifth grade will
It's always the end of the school year, field days.
Also just found out this afternoon that WISTV is going to be out on Friday to film our trash can ban. So congratulations to the Trash Can Band. You're going to be on television. We're going to start dismissal in just a few minutes.
All right, they're almost done. A few more minutes.
Thank you.
There we go. Okay, multiple choice questions. Like I was saying, if you have the option to remove a student, I think it's a valuable option, especially for those who want to do something else and pretend like they're there and they're really not in the classroom. So in my particular case, if I see a student's not responding in the Q&A or the chat or the poll, then I give a Susan going once, Susan going twice, Susan, and of course all the students are going in the chat. Uh-oh, here it comes, going 3 times. And I remove her from the class. The students know about this and will give me feedback if they know, for example, that students having internet issues. And that does happen on occasion, but sometimes they're just not paying attention. And here's another way of, okay, you've got to pay attention if you want to be a part of class. So that's number 4. Number 5, I try to use one PowerPoint during the class time, and relatively short, usually 8 to 10 slides maximum. And I also embed multiple choice questions within the PowerPoint so that the students can answer as well in the poll to let me know that they're paying attention and they know what's going on. That's the 5th one. The 6th one, I try to include at least one short video, and I find these through Google, in YouTube, TeacherTube, sometimes it's somewhere else. But again, I try to keep it under 5 minutes. Again, it's the idea of the students in this day and time are all about quick here, quick there, quick here, so forth. So anything longer than 5 minutes, and I'm going to lose them. They're going to be back to their Facebook, their IM, or whatever. Try to find a video that's relevant to them as well as to the lesson. This one is fantastic. It's about slope and skiing up and down, and it really, I think it would capture their attention wonderfully. I know it does anyway. All right, that's the 6th one. The 7th one is completing your lesson with examples. In this particular case, the more I can share a real-life lesson, a real-life example, the more engaged they become. So they're given a few minutes to answer in the poll, and there's a poll down there in the lower right. Let's suppose there are 15 students in attendance and only 10 are voting, because it'll tell me how many. They don't know it, but I see it. How many students are voting. I let the class know that 5 students haven't voted and they need to do so. If they don't vote, then I will remove them, or they get less participation points if we're near the end of the class time. But again, I think the more you have them actually being engaged with what you're doing, answering thinking, then they're less likely to go to those other areas, IM, Twitter, so forth. That's the 7th one. The 8th one has to do with closing out your lesson for the day. And again, we were told when I first started teaching online that we were supposed to stay in the classroom for an hour, and I found that I was losing a lot of students after 30 minutes. So I try to keep my lessons between 30 minutes and 45 minutes, depending on what's going on. They're just so what's the word I want to use? So used to videos being quick, fast, back and forth, quick things on television, so forth. In order to keep them engaged and learning, it's just important to keep it as succinct and clear and quick as possible. So my closing always includes a multiple choice that sort of wraps up what we did in the lesson. You'll notice the 1 says, the last was, whiteboard ends this class. I would start with that. And down in the lower right-hand corner, there's the poll where they would put their answer. And that's going to take a few minutes because they're going to think about what we discussed and what they know to be true. And giving everybody a chance to think about it, because some students take a little bit longer. Some students are taking notes, which is great. I love it. They're taking notes. Yay! Some are taking a screenshot, so they have it on their desktop to go back and look at it. But at any rate, give them time to answer the poll. The second thing is, down here in the bottom of the screen, is to give the students a preview of the next class meeting. And in this case, I would say next time we'll discover a formula that we can use to find the slope when the coordinates of 2 points are given. So in this particular lesson for this day, we were more into counting up and over. The video, the PowerPoint were all about counting up and over, or counting down and over. So in several cases in their next levels of learning, they need to be able to do it with a formula. So that's what we would do next time. The third thing I would do to finish up the class is up in the upper left corner. I would turn on the music as they begin to finish up, and of course then they start chatting, yay, I'm glad you're playing that song, that's a good song, I like that song. And then the fourth thing I do is over here to the top right, I have a poll of the class, and my question I always end my classes with this: how did you find this class today? Was it very helpful? Was it helpful? I really need more help from Mrs. Redfern, or it was a waste of my time. Every once in a blue moon, I get something like, it's a waste of my time.
Teachers at this time, please dismiss your walkers. Please dismiss walkers.
For the most part, they find it helpful and very helpful. And occasionally I have someone who's just totally lost still. And we have learning coaches in our school as well as I'm a helper to get those students where they need to be. So hopefully that helps you in seeing what we do. I do have students who will remain after class just to listen to the rest of the music. They'll want me to play it one more time. And they're looking forward to the next time to see what music was there. It's got to be something that interests them, something they listen to. But basically, that's how I end my classes. So the tides, they're changing. If you have any questions or if you have some feedback for me, again, I'm Jean Redfern. I teach at Palmetto State Academy in South Carolina. And that's my email address down there, and I'd love to hear from you. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you so much for watching and paying attention, and hope you have a great day today. Thank you.